It's my pleasure to introduce our featured speaker today. So give me a little time. You may not know this gentleman. I met Clemson 20 years ago in Rotary, and I have been constantly asking him for favors ever since. I discovered he is incredibly knowledgeable on numerous topics, genuinely interested in everyone he can meet, and is a true peacemaker who will never sit still when he has an opportunity to help someone else. It's my privilege to introduce a gentleman who has achieved the honorable titles of grandpa, proud father, and devoted husband. This is what I have learned about Clemson as a friend. He is curious, loyal, accomplished, courageous. He served in the Army for 24 years. During this service to his country, one of his responsibilities was as a commander of, let me get this right, 1st Battalion, 35th Armor Regiment. In other words, he drives big tanks. And he mentioned to me that he gets motion sick inside of an Army tank. He says he preferred to command his battalion with his head outside the operator's hatch. Now, I'm not sure what others may think, but it sounds a little terrible, a little dangerous to me. Clemson has an incredible resume reflecting a lifetime of service. And for those of you living in South Carolina, he is an active member of the Spartanburg Rotary Club and currently offering his service to the state. I urge you to get to know him as I have. Clemson served the Army in operations in Egypt, Germany, Slovenia, Kosovo, Bosnia, and Serbia. He earned his bachelor's degree with honors from the Citadel. He added a degree in master's degree in public administration, master's and PhD in political science. Clemson has a degree in strategy and security studies. He serves as an assistant professor at West Point. He also serves as professor of national security at the U.S. Naval War College. So he's highly overeducated. Upon his retirement from the Army, Clemson served as a civilian in Afghanistan and Iraq. He worked for the Center for Creative Leadership and has for over 16 years, training leaders in corporate, government, and nonprofit on every continent and in over 30 countries. Clemson continues his work as the leadership professor of practice at the Citadel, concentrating in ethics and service. He is the founder and CEO of Global Leadership Services and has just returned from London to agree to speak with us today. Please welcome my friend, Clemson T.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Cookie. I have a lifetime goal and my lifetime goal is someday be able to introduce Cookie because I'll tell you, I don't compare to her or that introduction. Thank you very much, Cookie, for the introduction and the invitation to join you because talking to members of the zone, talking to members of my club, all the zones, all the districts are in so much change right now. And that's why the topic of managing change and leading transition becomes so important. And so when we're thinking about managing change and leading transition, we might want to think about why it is so critical. And I've worked with organizations around the world for, public organizations, private organizations, organizations like Rotary, who are all going through change, but then are finding out that it's not moving the way that they had planned it. And we might find out some reasons why. So a couple of truths about organizational change, any organization of any type. First is one of the things we did at the U.S. Army War College is we planned a whole bunch of strategies. And then we studied why, sometimes they didn't work. And this matches work that has been done by consultancies around the world. And that is, if it takes you 12 weeks to plan something, it usually takes 100 to 120 weeks to integrate. So 12 weeks goes into 120. Poorly planned, it may take 200 weeks. Poorly led, it takes even longer. So we want to make sure that when we plan something, we think about that leadership aspect and want to make sure that we are putting as much effort into the leadership that we are in the planning. Because here's what happens. And I borrowed this. Cookie said, hey, you can use this slide. My understanding is it's very similar to the plan that you're going through for all the changes that the zones and the districts want to make. It's very clear. We have a timeline. We have benchmarks. We have resources. Everything is set up just right for it to go absolutely perfectly. And then it's sent out to the districts. It is sent out to the clubs. And something happens that looks like this. Okay. And what happens then is that we have a little confusion about what do they want us to do. They're stalling. There's some confusion. There's some concern. There's drama. And then suddenly people start finding out that little parts of it work. And we reinforce those little parts. And then essentially, usually years after the original timeline for the change, things start to happen the way the change was supposed to happen. And there's a picture of this happening in some clubs. Is this idea change goes down into transition, and it looks something like this. But we couldn't call that gap between change and acceptance as a dumpster fire. So instead, we call it the gap. You have the gap between what you planned and then what actually happened on the ground. And inside this gap, McKinsey, PwC, Ernst & Young, now EY, doesn't matter who you go to, between 65 and 75% of major organizations fail to meet their target. It doesn't mean they fail and nothing ever happened. It means they didn't meet the target they had planned for. And in this gap is where strategy and plans go to die. 57% of the organizations that affect intentional strategic change actually lose money, or they actually increase cost over 2 to 3 years. And it's interesting because the way the language works, oh, we're moving forward. We got a success. We knew we'd lose money, but we don't have to. And how do we ensure that, where we are in the gap, how can we move people through the gap easier? What can we do so that we don't light that dumpster on fire? Well, a couple of things is we don't want to blame people, okay, because that actually pushes down the pressure and increases the gap. Another thing we don't want to do is reorganize, okay? It's like, oh, well, this isn't working. Let's do something different. Some people will talk about rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. That's not good either. What do we need to do to put a change out that is readily or more easily accepted by the people who have to affect the change? And the answer is right here, okay? In the earlier video, the trainer asked you to put your hands together. I'm going to have you do the same thing, and then just put your thumbs where you're comfortable. Some of us are right over left people. Some of us are left over right people. Very few of us are thumbs together people. But that's the change. You can do it. Here's the question. If I ask you to change your thumbs, how long could you maintain that? Because just like the trainer said, it's intentional. You have to think about it, and you're not thinking about anything else. But if we understand how we change and how we transition, your thumb over your other thumb is actually transition. Now you're getting used to the change. You're seeing if it's going to work. You're seeing if it works for you. And how we change can be really important. And we all have a preference for change. And I'm going to ask you to help me with yours. So we're going to do a Zoom poll. And in a moment, Chris is going to put a Zoom poll up. And I'm going to add, there it is. I'm going to ask you to please choose only one answer that is close to basically your preference. So the 3 answers, you can only choose one, 3 answers. I prefer gradual change with a clear structure. I challenge the change structure and take a front seat in radicalizing the approach. And then the third is I like to explore change structure while supporting the current functional changes for the organizations. So the first one is I prefer gradual change. Second one is I challenge the change. The third is I like to explore the change. And we've got 41. Let's see, we've got 27, 29. We've got, oh, wow, we've got everybody in. Our results are in. Wow, you guys take polls fast. I love this. Chris, if you want to go ahead and share those results, thank you very much. This is really interesting because congratulations, you've identified the bell curve of the change style indicator. This is a psychological approach to how we prefer to change. And it breaks down into 3 basic groups. I prefer gradual change. And incidentally, everybody can change. We can all move our thumb, but how long can we keep it over? We can all recognize the need to move the thumb. And we might be somebody who moves it back and forth just to see what the difference is. The gradual change with a clear structure, okay, we call people like that sustainers or actually conservers. They're people who understand the way things are and they prefer stability over change. They can change, but they want to know why. The people who challenge the change structure, okay, they're explorers, okay, and it looks like we've got 5% explorers, 29% conservers or stabilizers, and those explorers really want to change. They want to change all the time. They want to change right now. And then you have the people who are pretty much in the middle. You can see we got a fundamental bell curve here, and in our let's see, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and move this. There we are. We have the conservers who want to know why. We have the pragmatists who want to know what and how. And we have explorers who want to know when. If you understand your preference for change, and this is part of a larger, much larger psychometric instrument, but it's the key question. If you know your preference for change, you can help others with theirs. And if you're someone who always wants to know the why of change, why are we changing? Great. We need to know that. That helps people transition even faster. If you want to know when we're going to change, that provides energy, and it provides energy to change and the reason to change. And then the majority of people across populations want to know what and how we're going to change and what it means, and then make the right steps to have that happen. This becomes really important because we find out that, there we go, there's 2 parts to change. If you want to get rid of that gap, change and transition. And when we talk about change, remember that first graph where we had benchmarks, we had, there we go, we had benchmarks, we had resources, we had everything laid out by time. And change is understood as a beginning. It's going to be great. This new club policy, it's going to be awesome. We're going to do this at this time, this at this time, this is this time, and it's going to be great. Change is something you can see, it happens quickly, and it is external. It involves these 4 areas. There we go. You got a vision. This is going to be great. We have this idea. Re-engineering, we're going to re-engineer some stuff. Then we'll reorganize. Then we'll restructure, and everything will be fine. And then you send it down to the clubs. And you find out that change does not equal transition. We're going to move our thumbs. Great. I don't like this. And that's why change does not equal transition. And when you send it down to the clubs, I have a picture of some of your club members as they're receiving the change from the zones in the district. And they look kind of like this. Whoops. Let me go back. Look like that. They're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to me? I didn't do anything wrong. I liked the way it was. And my friend Nick Petrie talks about the challenge with change is that if I want the change, I talk about what's bad about today and good about tomorrow. If I don't want the change and don't want to transition, I talk about what's good about today and bad about tomorrow. Well, how do we bring those 2 things together? Because when we are going through transition, it's psychological. It involves endings. What is ending? Okay. The way we used to do this club policy is ending. And you know what? It was good for its time. And now if we keep doing it, it's not going to be good. So we need to do something different. Does that make sense? Oh, okay. All right. I got to let go. I got to grieve a little bit. I might have been the person who set up that last policy for the club. I might be the person that needs to rebuild faith and hope because it involves a new technical procedure. It might involve, AI. It might involve bringing younger people into the club. And I have to learn anew. And it takes more time And finally, it is experienced internally. Many times you cannot see this happening with somebody. You can feel it, but man, you're not going to be able to see it. So we have to understand those endings, the trial that people go through, and then help them build new beginnings. And one of the things that contributes to the challenge of change and transition is that we think about whatever change is happening differently. If I were to ask you to change your thumbs again, I could say, this is a great exercise. It'll benefit them in the future. There are a lot of benefits to this exercise, and it will help everybody. But everybody who's looking at me right now, if I were to ask you to do your thumbs again, going, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Okay. What is the cost to me? What does it mean to me? And that is entirely okay. Our brain is set up that way. So we have to understand the change that we planned, but more important, we have to understand the transition everybody is going through to make that change a reality. The leader thinks forward. The follower, in this case, the club, thinks about now and forward. That's a fundamental difference in how we might see what's happening around us. So we have the structural side, which is the change, and the people side, which is the transition. So what do we need to do to make this work? Oh, there you go. Wedding is a change. Marriage is a transition. And I have been transitioning for 39 years. Okay. I'm on the upslide. Okay. It's a good thing. But really, the wedding is a change. We spend a lot of time on that wedding. And do we spend that same amount of intensity and everything on the transition that we all go through? The experience of transition comes from William Bridges, and he talks about ending, neutral zone, and a beginning for your change. And you'll see that this matches that curve that creates the gap. We got to let go of what was. We got to find clarity amid the confusion. And then we have to manage the ambivalence of starting something new. And first thing we need to do is we have to start with endings. And there we go. Because here are all the emotions we go through as we go through this transformation, this transition. And it's a lot like, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages of grief, where we deny it's happening to us. We want to resist it. And then the change continues to move, but we're not in the change. And we're the person everybody's talking about that isn't changing. And you're in this valley of chaos of what do I do? And then suddenly, through mentoring, through leadership, through the club getting together, through the committees working together, you find out something that's working. You reinforce it, and you find out that this is going to work into the future. And we start seeing that change happen. We thought the change would happen in a year because that's what we benchmarked and resourced and had in our timeline. But it might take 2. And it depends on how these people transition to make the change happen. And so how do we help people in this ending zone, neutral zone, and the beginning? So let's talk about honoring endings. How do we honor endings? Things are going to, we are actually forcing people to change down in the clubs. Well, how do we help them see that this is probably a good thing? First, we want to have complete endings. This is absolutely key. Clarify what's ending, what's remaining the same. We are not changing this. We're not changing this. We are changing this because if we keep doing it this way, bad things are going to happen. You're going to see communicate over and over again. Small things, not really long things, small things. You might want to have an overview that goes out and then a whole bunch of small things that are going well. Honor the past. Recognize that at the time when we were doing this, it was probably the right thing. But you know what? That time may be gone. And now we need to move forward with what's happening in the future. There's going to be a range of emotions. You might have experienced this already. Patience and empathy are absolutely the key. This is a time where sense of urgency actually works against you, because if I keep pushing someone, you're going to have people say, talk to the hand. And then emphasize what they are going to get out of it. So what's in it for them, not what's in it for anyone else. And then there's a balance of awareness and action. So the ending is really key. What is ending for this new policy to begin? And that ending may be, I don't know, people who are unfamiliar with the policy, and they'll be more familiar with it going forward. Then we got through the ending. Now comes the valley of chaos. Change is going forward. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck in the valley of chaos. It's going to happen. We all go through it. Why are we changing our thumbs right now? Expect people are going to be untethered. They won't get it. They'll be doubtful, stressed out. Please set short-term achievable goals. Get a little bit, get a little bit, get a little bit, and continue to reward. Listen to how the change is described, okay? And when you're describing the change, use helpful and positive language. This is going to be good for us. It's going to be tough, but this is going to be good for us in the long run. And of course, emphasize patience. Not everybody is an explorer. Not everybody is ready to change immediately. And then the things you're balancing are urgency and empathy. Hey, we really need to get this done. I understand how you feel. Let's try this one thing. We really need to get this done. We're going to send some people to give you a hand, and they're not there to tell you what to do, but they're to help you while you're doing it. And that's how you demonstrate empathy. And now we've got a little hope that's happening. And with our hope that's happening, a couple of things we want to keep in mind. First, there's going to be people who don't like this. That's not a bad thing. Okay. Listen to them and understand where they're coming from. Communicate. Beginnings require action. No more denial or resistance to change. We have got to move forward. I understand your concerns. We brought them up. We're going to move forward. Communicate. As somebody does one thing right, we're going to reward them. We're going to send that email. We're going to call them out in the club meeting. We're going to say they did a great job for moving forward. We're going to communicate it. And acknowledgement reinforces progress. When people see that they can do this in small steps or doing it in different places, so if it's happening in Maryland and not happening in Spartanburg, hey, get those two people together, see if they can work things out. And then, of course, communicate. And realism really is the fuel for future growth. Hey, you know, in these areas, we're moving really well, but in other areas, maybe we're not. So finally, last thing, 3 key things for the areas you might be focused on right now. 3 key things you want to take with you. 1, how are you helping members and clubs understand why the change? We're appealing to the conserver side because that's the hardest one to get to change quickly, okay? How are we helping members and clubs understand why the change? Second, how and what are you telling members and clubs to help them through the valley of chaos? How are we providing resources? How are we providing an easy ear? How are we actively listening to clubs? And then finally, when will members and clubs hear how well they are doing and that more change may be happening? Those 3 things, understanding the why. So basically the why is the head. Helping through the valley of chaos is the heart. And then the hands that hands are clapping as things are happening. That's the hands part. And this is head, heart, and hands approach to change and transition. Thank you very much for a very quick overview of a really complex topic. I think we're going to take questions in the breakout, and I'm going to turn it back over to Chris. Thank you very much for your time today, everybody.
Thank you so much, Clemson. That was awesome. We've all, of course, heard, how hard change is, and you did a masterful job of really, explaining why it's so hard and something we can do about it. And as a reminder to the audience, Clemson will be hosting one of the breakout rooms, and he will be happy to elaborate or answer your questions at that time. So thanks again, Clemson. All right, so up next, it is my pleasure to introduce Marshall Butler. Marshall is a past district governor. He is also a past Rotary public image coordinator for Zone 34. He did such an amazing job with that they have asked him to be in charge of creating the communication plan, which he is currently working on. But today, he is going to be Mr. Wonderful. And is going to talk to you about Shark Tank. Marshall?
Awesome, Chris. Thank you for that introduction. And yeah, we're super excited about the program that we're putting together for the Zone Summit that's coming up at the end of October in Pittsburgh. One of the things that we have come together and come up with is a great concept that's really going to be, it's going to help us highlight the great projects that are being done around Zones 33 and 34. We know there's all sorts of fantastic projects that are being done by all the districts, all the clubs, and we really want to highlight those. And so what we put together is a concept around the Shark Tank. And so we're asking for folks to submit their projects, and we're asking you to submit those projects to the Service Project Center on the Rotary.org website. Again, the reason is we want to get emphasis and awareness of all these great projects, even at the Rotary level. So once you go to, I'm trying to advance my slide here. There we go. Once you go to the Service Project Center and you submit your project, you then want to go to Rotary 3334 zonesummit.org/Shark Tank. And there's going to be a form there, and you need to submit the form and let us know more information about it. But insert that link to the Service Project Center. That's how we're going to be evaluating these projects. We have a great committee that's looking at all the different projects that are coming in. We have some criteria. We're looking for, obviously, they're going to hit one of the areas of focus. Hopefully, they're going to be a potential program of scale, something that we can really help provide the fuel to make it become much bigger. And what's going to happen is you need to submit these by September 15th. That's next Sunday. And so there's not a whole lot of time left. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me or to Barbara Goby. She's dropping our information in the chat here, or even your RRFC has information about this great project. But what's going to happen is you're going to submit these projects by September 15th. And our committee is going to identify the top 3 finalists. And when we identify those 3 finalists, you're going to have the opportunity to come to the Zone Summit in Pittsburgh. And on October 26th, you're going to present your project in a pitch to our Sharks. So our Sharks are going to be Rotary International President Stephanie Urchek, Zones 3334 Director Patrick Eakes. We have past RI President John Germ, and we also have Trustee Larry Lunsford. Those are your Sharks. And they're going to be asking questions as they watch your pitch to determine which one is going to be the winner. Now, we believe all of the projects are going to be winners because the room is going to be filled with leaders from across the zone. So there's folks in this room like district governors that might have DDF, designated district funds that they need to use. There's going to be members of the Arts Clump Society. Your project might scratch an itch, might be something that they're passionate about, and they're going to want to give money. We're looking for ways to really amplify the impact of your project and let everyone see the great stuff that you're doing. You're also going to get a booth in the House of Friendship. So the entire weekend, you can tell people about that fantastic project. And even better, we are going to cover your hotel and meals for Friday night and Saturday night. You just need to cover your airfare to get to Pittsburgh, but that is if you're one of the 3 finalists. So again, this is just going to be a really exciting way for us to highlight fantastic projects that are happening across our zones. Get in front of a large audience of influencers that can amplify your project, and hopefully you will be the selected project that wins the Shark Tank. So again, the information is in the chat. If you have any questions, please go to the Zone Summit website and Shark Tank and fill out that form. And we look forward to seeing all these fantastic projects. With that being said, I'm now going to hand it off to our Employo Now coordinators, Lindsay Cancino and Kim Walden. Take it away, guys.
Hey everyone, this is Kim Walden. I'm happy to share with you guys today that we have created a brand new website page on the Zone website. And so this will be a page about the Polio Plus Society. And the Polio Plus Society, as you all know, is a refresher before I go over the page contents, was created as a way for everyone to give sustainable giving to polio. So the first Polio Plus Society was started in 2012 and then was formally recognized in October of 2022 when the Rotary International trustees endorsed the Polio Plus Society as a club and district-led program. Now, as a district-led program, the districts can set up their own Polio Plus Society, however it makes sense for them. And that means any amount of giving to become a member and any type of recognition. So that means that no 2 Polio Plus societies may look alike. And that's created some confusion. So what we did is we created a page on the Zone website, and Sean's going to show that to you now. But basically, that's going to give you a little bit of information about the Polio Plus Society. It's going to tell you where you can join, how you can join. It's going to give you a video from past Rotary International President Jennifer Jones, the best contacts for the district information, so that they can connect you to your Polio Plus Society chair. And all of the End Polio Now coordinators will be able to connect you on how to do it. It will also help you to know how to set up a Polio Plus Society if you don't have one. And then finally, we also have a brand new initiative that I can't wait to share with you. It's a special recognition called the Polio Plus Society Champion Club. And this is a way for us to meld the successful Polio Plus Society along with the Rotary International Citation Award, which was a goal for every club to give $1,500 a year or more. That goal is now called the Club Excellence Award. So we've merged the Club Excellence Award, $1,500 giving for polio each year with the Polio Plus Society, and any club that commits to this recurring giving every year of $1,500 or more will now be able to get a special recognition. And this is what the certificate will look like. So we're hoping this will create some competition. We plan to highlight and feature those who do jump on board and do this. And I can't wait to see what all you guys do with this. And we have more exciting news. So let me turn it over now to our End Polio Now coordinator in the islands, Lindsay Cancino. Lindsay?
Thanks, Kim. Okay. So as Kim mentioned, we have more coming up. Everyone knows every year, October 24th, World Polio Day. And we've got a number of special things happening at the Zone Institute also in Pittsburgh on the day. But in order to enhance and highlight what's going on, we created a page just for WPD. So if you go to the Zone website and put in the normal entry and then the /WPD R for R, you can see the details there. And included in there, if I can get there we go. Okay, is also a fundraising idea. And we have incorporated the use of the platform Raise for Rotary to try and help that as well, but to also give clubs and members in your various districts the opportunity to do fundraisers, in this case specifically for World Polio Day, that give credit back to those individuals or the clubs, whichever way you choose to do it. But we thought this might be a good fun way to do something special to recognize World Polio Day and help to raise some funds while we're doing it. So it can be anything you like, a viewing party, World's Greatest Meal, which is popular, Pints for Polio is another thing I see all the time. Whatever it is that makes sense to you and your club and your members as a way to support our #1 priority, the eradication of polio, then just drop the details in at that page and create your own team, and off you go towards the goal. And as Kim mentioned, clubs who raise $1,500 or more from this initiative will get the recognition of a Polio Plus Society Champion Club. And one more, if I can get it to advance. Here we go. We've got also updated the Facebook page to recognize World Polio Day. And it has the information there as well about how to get involved in the fundraising challenge, help us to enhance our giving, make this a really special World Polio Day. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our very own RI Director for Zones 33 and 34, Mr. Patrick Eakes. Patrick?
Lindsay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I have to tell you what a privilege it is to serve as your director, but I'm kind of liking the title of Shark. That seems like I like that Shark, Patrick. Maybe we'll go with that. Normally, I would have my ZoomFormation background up, but I am coming to you from Rotary World Headquarters and in the office of Stephanie Yurchik. So I thought I'd show you what her desk looks like right behind me there with the flags. And I'm on break from a membership committee, a membership growth committee meeting. So it's a treat to be able to join you today. Since I am up here to talk about membership and all things membership, and I'll tell you this committee is made up of people bringing such incredibly diverse and smart viewpoints from across the world. It's been a real treat all morning to talk about our organization and membership and all the possibilities. But I got an update this morning. This is very current information, I think, through yesterday, and I thought I'd share with you all that our two zones, zones 33 and 34, right now are sitting number 2 and 3 among the 10 zones in US and Canada. Zone 33 is number 2, just a short amount of members in terms of growth behind the Northwest US and Northwest and Western Canada district. And then Zone 34 is right on the heels of Zone 33. So we are off to a good start. Both zones are ahead of what we call the success track. And that success track is the path, which if we follow, will result at the end of the year in a 0.5% gain in membership. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, 0.5%, but when we've been chronically in decline for years, 0.5% would be an incredibly special achievement for our zones. So I think it's worth noting we're ahead of that success track. And at this point, half of our clubs, actually more than half of our clubs, have not brought in a single member this year. So for the half of the clubs that have brought in members, and for the clubs who have sponsored new clubs, which have added to our membership results, thank you. But there's a great opportunity there if we can motivate those clubs that have not yet brought in a member during the first 70 days of the year to get going on membership and to fire up their membership engines. So we're coming into the time of year that, quite frankly, is when we have tended to flatline a little bit in our membership growth. So my ask of you is 3 things. 4 things, actually. 1, get those clubs that have not yet brought in a member. Let's get them going and have them pulling toward membership success. Let's keep the membership topic front and center. When it's important to you as a zone, as a district, as a club leader, it will be important to your members. So let's keep that topic front and center. Let's prepare to win December. There's a certain person I can see in my frame right now who had the motto of win December when he was governor, and his district, rather than the typical purge that occurs before we get that January 1st due statement, his district actually gained members during December. Just keeping a focus on membership is so important. Again, when you focus on membership, everybody who you have the ear of knows it's a priority. And then the last thing is to create a new on-ramps into our organization. That can be through creative membership types. More often, it's through the creation of clubs. And so we have a real opportunity there when we create new on-ramps where we create opportunities for people who, for one reason or another, cannot connect with the clubs that are currently in your communities. It could be cost, it could be time of day, it could be location, it could be any number of things. But when we create new opportunities for like-minded people, people of integrity, people with a heart for service, when we create those on-ramps for them, we're going to see more people who will find their way to join our force. So that's my message today on membership. And I appreciate you letting me come into the meeting a little bit late to join you. And I'm going to hand it back over to Chris Justice.
Thanks so much, Patrick. Awesome message from an awesome venue. That's pretty cool that you are where you are. All right, so we're getting ready to go into our breakout rooms. Before we do that, Sean Patty's going to throw up some announcement slides, I believe. All right. So coming up next, that is today, very shortly, at 5:30 this afternoon, still time to register. We have our MAP webinar. We have the focus is going to be on finding great new members. I have seen some rehearsals on both these presentations. Both presentations are incredible, so make sure that you get there for that webinar. And let me see. Am I advancing or are you doing that for me, Sean? Okay, I'm doing it. Okay. Well, we're both doing it. All right. Next up is Foundation Matters. That is a monthly webinar. These have been greatly received as well. That is going to be every month, third Thursday at 6 p.m. And I believe the next one is going to be on the 19th. Also can register for those on DAGDB. We've got our public image webinar coming up on September 24th, also at 6 p.m. That is Check Yourself. One of the most important things that we can do at the beginning of the Rotary year is just do an evaluation of where we are as a club or a district in terms of our public image efforts. And this is going to be a great primer on how you can do that and what those best practices are. All right, we also have Zones 33, 34 live webinar. This is going to be all the detail on what you need to know about how to get to Calgary, what to do when you're there, and how to get back. So really important information about international coming up. And of course, we have our zone training coming up October 23 through 27th. That is the Zone Summit in Pittsburgh. I believe registration, if not done, is really close to being done. So if you have any ideas about going to that, you need to make those decisions quickly. I know a ton of people are registered for it, so it's going to be a great event. All right, and then of course, as we talked about before, international coming up June 21st through 25th in Calgary. Still time to get registered for that, of course. And make sure you stay connected with us on our Rotary Zones 33, 34 social media channels. There are several out there, and make sure you like and follow all of those. All right, so we are going to get you to your breakout rooms. Your choices today are going to be Change with Clemson. Marshall is going to host the Shark Tank breakout if you want to learn more about that. Our End Polio Now coordinators will be hosting World Polio Day, or World Polio Day breakout room. And of course, Patrick will be hosting the director's room. So if you've got any questions for Patrick, you can pop into that. I'll be opening these rooms very briefly in just a second. You'll get about 15 minutes at the end of the breakout session. You do not need to come back to the main room. The meeting will be over. And of course, if you have any trouble getting to your breakout room, just hang out and let myself or Sean know, and we will get you to the room of your choice. All right, when I open all rooms, you should see a dialogue giving you the chance to select. So we're going to be doing that now. All right, so off you go. Host, make sure you go to your room. And again, if anybody has any trouble, just let Sean and I know, and we'll take care of you.